Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Good evening, Maverick family. Welcome, new viewers, wherever you may be around the world. Great to have everybody here. We have a stacked program for you tonight. Dragon will be in the house very soon to talk about a series of car fires in Montreal, Canada, under investigation. Some may be arson, some may not be, but they're all under scrutiny because of other arsons involving buildings, other investigations into possible organized crime. We'll take a look at that tonight. Also, election integrity, top of mind in the United States, where Elon Musk is paying $1 million a pop, I think daily, if I'm not mistaken, to people who sign a petition heading into the final stretch of the U.S. presidential election. And then we've got election integrity questions swirling around the election in Moldova and the referendum, which could push Moldova further toward European Union integration. Echoes, if not an absolute mirroring of what happened in Ukraine prior to the military conflict there. So we're watching that very, very carefully. And we'll continue our coverage right here on Maverick News right after this.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media, but the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
All right, so let's start with just information about what is going on in Moldova. Big deal over there. It might not be on your radar, but it should be. It should be on pretty much everybody's radar. This evening, we're focusing on the recent developments in Moldova, where the nation's future path, whether towards the European Union or maintaining closer ties with Russia, has been at the heart of both a presidential election and a pivotal referendum. In the presidential race, incumbent President Mala Sandu, known for her pro-European stance, has secured the lead in the first round of voting, with approximately 42% of the votes. Sandu did not reach the outright majority needed to avoid a runoff, which is now scheduled for November 3rd. Her main challenger, Alexander Stoyanoglu, from the Party of Socialists, representing a pro-Russian sentiment, garnered around 26% of the votes. So simultaneously, Moldovans voted in a referendum that asked whether the country's constitution should enshrine a path toward EU membership. Early tallies suggested a narrow victory for the yes camp, but the margin was razor thin, indicating significant controversy, with President Sandu herself condemning what she described as an unprecedented assault on democracy by foreign actors, implicitly pointing towards Russian interference. We mentioned it on Maverick News over the past couple of nights. Allegations of vote buying and foreign meddling have overshadowed the election there and the referendum. Police in Sandu have reported attempts to influence the vote, with claims that tens of millions of euros were spent to sway public opinion against EU integration and against Sandu's presidency. All that being said, I think I have a clip here of a voter being asked. Now, this is a BBC report, or a part of a report involving a BBC reporter on the ground in Moldova. I'll share it with you. Asking voters about people who had been approaching them, and it looks like they were being offered money in order to vote. Now, how did this potentially influence the way they voted or how they voted? Not entirely clear. I'll just let the video speak for itself. Make sure we have audio here for you tonight. I'll check in the chat while we run these clips to make sure that the system is functioning properly, but here we go. I'll translate for our audio-only viewers. Will you tell me how much they were supposed to pay you? The reporter asks this person at the polls. They said 1,000 rubles is the response. For voting, right? Question. Answer, yes. Who promised that? A man, he left. He said he'd be back. The response. But he still hasn't come. Question. Who did you have to vote for? I don't want to say. The response from this woman. What did he say exactly is the question next. How were you meant to vote in the referendum? They said they'd pay 500 rubles is the answer. Then here, that man said 1,000. You came from Transnistria? Question. Yes. That's kind of a little sliver of land up there where Russia has sort of pseudo control. They have operations entrenched in there. I believe they have an information warfare department sort of thing set up in Transnistria. Are there many of you who came here for the money? Me and her, and then another 3 people are meant to come, is the answer. How are you meant to vote, or just take part? We voted for who they told us. I don't want to say for who. For the EU is the question. Was it yes or no? That's my business. I won't say. She responds. So Moldova is just situated just west of, right on the Ukrainian border. It's a much smaller country, but you can see what's in play there. Obviously a big concern. The Kremlin has dismissed these elections as unfree, questioning the sudden surge in votes for Sandu, and the EU calling for evidence of the alleged meddling. This election was more than just a political contest. It was a reflection of Moldova's internal tug-of-war between its Western aspirations and its historical ties with Russia. The outcome, though preliminary at this point, suggests Moldovans are leaning towards Europe, but not without significant opposition, both organic and possibly, to some degree, influenced by foreign actors. As we look toward the runoff now, all eyes will be on Moldova, where the presidential election's second round could further clarify or complicate the nation's geopolitical alignment. Okay, I shall return right after this.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media outlets publishing things that simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
In an ocean of lies a century deep, the truth awaits. Choose not the red pill. Choose not the blue pill. For both are an illusion. Discover the power of M. The power of individuality. We are Mavericks. We are the way to the light. Fear not the storm. Join our quest for truth. Truth will set you free. Maverick News. The world is watching.
We're back. Jagmeet Singh, leader of the New Democratic Party federally in Canada, is calling for an emergency debate. Sorry, my tongue is tied. I'll untie it. Is calling for an emergency debate on the issue of foreign interference and violent crimes being committed by agents of India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. According to Jagmeet Singh, he says Canadians have been killed, and he says it's the responsibility of all elected officials to take this seriously. Of course, election integrity is, I guess, the theme of the night here on Maverick News. in Canada, in the U.S., and in Moldova and elsewhere. I have to turn this off. Okay, here's a letter that Jagmeet Singh has sent to the Speaker of the House. In this letter to the Speaker, Jagmeet Singh says, I am writing to you to give notice understanding Order 52, subsection 2, that I will be seeking leave today to propose an emergency debate concerning the RCMP's revelations that agents of the Government of India are actively engaged in violent criminal activity in Canada, including homicide, extortion, collaborating with organized crime, and interference in our democratic processes. As you may know, this development follows the deeply disturbing allegations that the Government of India was involved in the killing of Hardeep Singh Najjar, a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil. Since then, at least 13 people have been warned by the RCMP of serious threats against them, underscoring the ongoing danger to communities. Given the severity of the situation and the danger it poses to all Canadians, it is my view that an emergency debate, understanding Order 52.2, is needed so that all parliamentarians may deliberate on swift actions that can be taken to protect Canadians and our country. Thank you for your careful consideration on this matter. And he has followed up on that. Or he did follow up on it. He is following up on it with this interaction with reporters on Parliament Hill. Let's go to Jagmeet Singh. Here's what he had to say today about this subject.
I feel like this is continuity, right? Like on a demandé quelque chose, puis on va parler après. Right? So it's like give you the full story. All right. Again, I'll start with an opening, and then I look forward to your questions. So we had written for an emergency debate. The Speaker accepted that request for an emergency debate tonight on the foreign interference specifically related to the RCMP allegations of violence perpetrated by Indian government agents. So this is very serious, and I'm honored that we were able to get the Speaker to accept that today as something that necessitated an emergency debate. Only a week ago, we learned of these really chilling details of a foreign government hiring gangs to commit a campaign of terror impacting Canadians. But I am disappointed that the Liberals shut down our attempt to bring in a Canada-India Relations Committee, similar to the Canada-China Committee. What I'm disappointed by is that this is an ongoing trend I've seen with the Liberals. They put up barricade after barricade, block after block to pursue foreign interference. We had demanded a public inquiry, and you'll recall the government said no. Again and again, they put up barriers. They brought in a special rapporteur. We said that is not sufficient. That's not good enough. We had to fight that step at every step of the way to finally get a public inquiry. And now, when we're calling for a Canada-India Relations Committee to look at what's going on, to investigate what the threats are to Canadians, to really dig in and to do that important work, the Liberals again put up a blockade and said no. I know that the work of this committee may not look good on the Liberals and on their inaction. May not look good on Justin Trudeau and the Liberals. But as the Prime Minister himself said, there are parliamentarians that are directly alleged to be involved, specifically, as the Prime Minister said, Conservative parliamentarians that are connected to foreign interference coming from the Indian government. That is serious. We need to take it seriously, and we need to do the important work of examining what's going on, ultimately because we need to keep Canadians safe. This is something that I've said again and again. This is a time that calls for us to put Canada first, party second. And I've seen both from Pierre Poilievre refusing to get his security clearance, refusing to do what's necessary to protect our democracy, and from Justin Trudeau, who is very slow in taking steps. We've seen both parties put their parties ahead of the country. I believe a leader needs to put the country first. And so we'll continue to fight hard to make sure we are protecting Canadians, we are protecting our democracy, we are keeping people safe. So I look forward to the debate tonight where we talk about what those steps need to look like, and I'll continue to push for a committee that will constantly look at, will be ongoing, looking at the relationship between Canada and India, with a view to keeping Canadians safe. I'll do that in French, and then I look forward to your questions. Donc, je suis honoré qu'on a...
Okay, let me get us past this French portion. We'll get to the Q&A here. One moment. Okay, here we go.
Et on doit faire le travail nécessaire pour protéger notre pays. C'est encore un moment de mettre le pays en avant que le parti, mais les deux autres chefs de parti ont choisi de défendre le parti au lieu du pays. Pour moi, c'est clair, c'est pays première, parti seconde. Je suis prêt pour vos questions.
Who said no to your unanimous consent? How are you so sure it's the Liberals that said no to this committee?
I thought it would be the Conservatives, given the fact that their leader is unwilling to get a security clearance, given the fact there's allegations directly touching the Conservative Party from foreign interference, specifically from India and the Indian government, the fact that the Prime Minister pointed out that members of Parliament or parliamentarians from the Conservative Party are involved in or are compromised. I thought it would be the Conservatives, but we were paying close attention, and the no came from, it looked like, Mr. Lamoureux from the Liberal side. And so it came from the Liberal side, and that's another example of the Liberals, I don't understand why, but putting up a barrier, stopping the important work of getting down to what's actually going on. How are Canadians being impacted, and what more can we do to protect Canadians?
Do you think the Liberals are trying to hide something?
I don't know why the Liberals would say no. I know the Conservatives seem like they're hiding something. They're unwilling to even know what's going on, and they're turning a blind eye. They're looking away from the heinous acts of a foreign government committing violence and criminal activity on Canadian soil. So that's clear from the Conservative behavior, but I don't understand why the Liberals would say no to this when it is an important step to have accountability, to keep Canadians safe, to dig into what's going on, how far is this, and how much more do we need to do to keep Canadians.
I hope we're still broadcasting, folks. We kind of got interrupted there. Let me get this back up on the screen. Yes. Okay, here we're going back to this. Here we go. Something's gone a little bit haywire here.
Responsible for an act of murder were caught. I think it's important for our legal system to make sure that we are able to catch and arrest and then convict murderers. So that's an important step.
La semaine dernière, le premier ministre a dit qu'il y avait des gens dans les autres partis. On comprend qu'il sous-entendait le parti néo-démocrate qui aurait été mêlé à de l'ingérence étrangère. Est-ce le cas? Puis est-ce que vous avez agi comme chef auprès de certaines personnes, etc.? Ou est-ce qu'il se référait à quelque chose dans le passé? Comment vous avez interprété ces propos? Parce que moi, ce que j'ai
we're into
compris,
French, so let's just pull down out of that. And I think it is time to go live now to Montreal. We'll come back to that subject in a little bit, but first we're going to go to Montreal, talking about organized crime and violence. Here's Dragon live on the scene in Montreal. Hello, sir. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you, Mavericks?
We're doing just fine here. So, Dragon, you're out of the lair,
Yes.
out on the street, and we've seen in recent weeks a series of car fires. What and there's I guess potentially, possibly, something connecting some of this stuff, some dots maybe to be connected. What's going on with all of that?
Well, we're seeing actually some crime rising in Montreal and mostly everywhere in Canada. But the thing is that, particularly in Montreal, what we have is a resurgence of a group called the EGQ, which actually are, using small youngsters to do their crime, like setting places on fire, cars on fire, and so on. So, yeah, it is a rampaging thing nowadays. And for the last 3 days now, we have seen 3 cars that has been set on fire. Probably not all involved in that particular case, but one of those actually were connected to the case of Emile Bernard that I did actually the report of. Remember the restaurant that has went on fire in the old Montreal? Well, this guy actually on the 17th has his car in Dorval being immolated and torched on fire. So there's relation between these folks and what's going on in with a gang that is actually in Saint Leon Harbor Road of Montreal.
I see. So what we're looking at here, I guess, is at least 3 vehicle fires in the past 3 days alone, plus some other ones prior to that. The most recent ones in, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Hountsick?
Yeah,
Cartierville?
Hountsick, Cartierville, yep.
Okay, and that's a borough of Montreal. And
Yep.
this was, it's over between Sunday and Monday, all these 3 incidents on the same street. Now, as I understand it, and you can confirm or correct, according to police, fire investigators, the most recent events took place early morning Monday, and they're saying that they're not clear if these 3 most recent fires are connected to any of these other criminal activities that appear to be going on involving organized crime, where we've seen police hold news conferences and talk about extortion, about business owners sort of being threatened with the age-old approach of, hey, be a real shame if your business were to happen to burn down, and kids, I guess, allegedly, maybe being used to set some of these fires at businesses that maybe don't pay up. So police are investigating that stuff. And then we've seen, again, and I hope I'm on the right track here, we saw did I hear you right when you said a vehicle at the home of the man that owned the building that was burned?
Yeah.
Was that a week ago now? About a week ago.
Yeah. The 17th of October in Dorval, which is another borough pretty far away from mine, where the Emile person is living actually has been his car has been immolated in fire. So it's really not in this neighbor where I'm standing right now, because right now I'm pretty near the old Montreal. Mm-hmm. So you can see some correlation and some motive operandis going on around here.
So they're investigating the fire, the car fire, and obviously because he may have been targeted by some organized crime group, might have been the victim of some sort of extortion, police are seeing if there is a connection. But of course, the investigation is ongoing.
Yeah, on the case of this person, actually, they have connected dots with a group called the EJQ, which stands for Everyone Gets Killed. And those groups in Saint-Léonard, which is a gang group, organized crime, are actually doing some arsons and also extortion. So they are known by the police for those kind of crime.
Wow. And the kids that might apparently are involved with some of these organizations, these criminal organizations, any idea how old they are? I guess they're all sort of minors.
Well, for the example of the fire that has been covering on Montreal Street, the guys that was setting the fire at the restaurant was about 20-year-old, and the driver that was driving the getaway car was about 18-year-old. So that gives you a perspective of how old or how young they will take their new criminal,
so
if I can put it this way.
Young people in their late teens, early 20s, not so young that they might escape being tried as adults, but I guess this is all part of the investigation to see exactly who these organizations are recruiting to do their dirty work.
Exactly. And as you said, the other fire is under investigation to know if they are related to the same group or other crime that has been evicted around here. So we'll see what is going to be going on with all that. And I will be surely on the case.
Okay. Dragon, on the scene there tonight in Montreal. Anything else you want to add or think that we might be missing tonight? Dragon, how can people find your work? Tell people that.
Well, I am on Twitter, also at the One Rising Dragon, and also on Facebook, Dragon, if you want to have an invitation. Sometimes I do some lives, so, you know, Montreal is a beautiful city. We like to look at it, but at the same time, there's a lot of going on, and I think we can correlate some stuff going on into your turf also. So let's keep an eye open.
Okay, thank you, Dragon. Great work out there as usual. We'll check in with you later on. Dragon in Montreal.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right, and I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to go to that live emergency debate in Ottawa on foreign interference in Canada's electoral process. And we're also going to talk about what's going on with election integrity in the U.S. as we hit this final leg of the race for the White House. So don't go away. We will be right.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Let's dip into that emergency debate in Ottawa on foreign interference. An emergency debate requested by the leader of the New Democratic Party, Jagmeet Singh, and approved by the Speaker of the House. All right, here we go. This is what they're saying.
On November 18th, 2020, there was a motion to create a registry of foreign agents. Can the member explain why it took 4 years for anything to be done about that? The honourable member for Calgary Skyview.
The member from Lac St. John for his important question and comments and the work he does on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Colleagues, I know from across this Parliament take these concerns seriously And that's why all of our colleagues have supported initiatives to protect Canadians. That's why we saw the Prime Minister stand up in this House of Commons, which is unprecedented, to show how serious this government is, and why the RCMP last week held a press conference to inform Canadians on the need for further self-care and to make sure that they're monitoring the situation appropriately. Thank you.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Member from London North. Excuse me, London Fanshawe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier today, the leader of the NDP, the member for Burnaby South, tried to introduce into this House a motion to create a standing committee on Canada-India relations, and yet the unanimous consent that was required was denied by this Liberal Party. So I'm a bit confused in terms of the speech today. My question is pretty clear to my Liberal colleague. We have serious concerns with the government's constant contradictions, but if they were so concerned with the Indian foreign interference, why did they say no to the motion created by the member for Burnaby South? That's right.
The Honourable Member from Calgary, Skyview.
Thank the member for London Fanshawe for this important question. First of all, I did not deny any request. I actually support the NDP, the study that was recommended at the SECU committee. I participated last Friday in the 106.4 that was brought forward, and the Hogue Commission looking into the foreign interference by the Government of Canada, and I will continue to do so. Thank you.
The Honourable Member from Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to the Honourable colleague from Calgary Skyview. He puts his finger on something which is a really significant problem. I very much welcome the study that's going to be undertaken through the Public Safety and National Security Standing Committee. But the Hogue inquiry, by its terms of reference, is solely focused on foreign interference in our democratic processes within, for instance, elections. And we know, as the member for Calgary Skyview just stated, tonight's emergency debate is prompted by RCMP work at a multidisciplinary level, which has revealed a criminal network within Canada that threatens people and has actually killed people, which is not within the scope of Madam Justice Hogue's inquiry. Is the Liberal Party or the government prepared to expand the mandate of that inquiry?
The Honourable Member from Calgary Skyview.
Well, I want to thank the member from Saanich Gulf Islands for this important question. And as I said earlier, I support the study of this at the SECU committee, and I look forward to having that conversation there with committee members, because I think we do need to look at the Conservative Party's role and foreign influence in their previous leadership races that have occurred, and that serious allegations have arisen. And I think as we work together with the committee that, whether it's SECU or whether it's another committee established, we can go into further dialogue and understanding of the issues that have been brought forward today.
A brief 20-second question from the Honourable Member from Brampton South.
Thank you for my colleague for this speech. Just my question is to the RCMP cleared mention that they have obtained evidence linking agents of the Indian government to homicides and other acts of violence in Canada, including extortion. Can the member elaborate our measure to address, stop and prevent any act of violence on Canadian by foreign agents so that the Canadian can feel safe in their home country?
A quick 20-second answer from the member from Calgary Skyview.
Brampton, who brings forward a very important question. For the RCMP to make a statement to Canadians is acknowledging there's serious threats, and I think I'm concerned about the threats that were brought forward, but I'm happy to see that they've stepped forward to work with police agencies across Canada to deal with these threats immediately. Thank you.
Resuming debate, the Honourable Minister responsible for the Pacific Economic Development Agency of Canada, Minister responsible for emergency preparedness, and President of the King's Privy Council.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for actually sharing my entire title. It takes a mouthful. Mr. Speaker, we are moving into a world where it is becoming easier for foreign countries to suppress freedom beyond their own borders and extend repressive policies on the international stage, using social media and online censorship
and sadly, through transnational intimidation and murder. The tools and playbook that these countries are using are evolving, and how we deal with them, we must evolve as well. And I appreciate the opportunity today to speak to the very serious findings with respect to the involvement of agents of the Government of India in serious criminal activity on Canadian soil disclosed by the RCMP last week. The RCMP and national security officials made several attempts to work with the Government of India and Indian law enforcement counterparts on this matter, with the goal of putting an end to these criminal activities. These were repeatedly rebuffed on their attempts, including earlier this month when the Deputy Commissioner Mark Flynn, National Security Intelligence Advisor National Durin, and Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs David Morrison met with officials from the Government of India. As such, the RCMP was compelled to move forward with the disclosure of the evidence it had gathered, which it did on October 14th. And Mr. Speaker, I agree wholeheartedly with the Prime Minister when he said on October 14th that the Government of India made a fundamental error in thinking that they could engage in supporting criminal activity against Canadians here on Canadian soil. Canadians will not accept this happening here because Canada offers a promise to live in a democracy where fundamental rights are guaranteed, where freedom, rules-based order, and safety are paramount. We share the common values that we are stronger when we learn from each other. When we peacefully share different ideas, even when we challenge each other's perspectives. That is why so many people call Canada home. That is why my family chose to come here. And it is clear that for the Government of India, freedom is subjective, rules-based order is only an uncomfortable theory, and safety, well, that clearly is in question. The RCMP's investigation found that the Indian government and their agents have a vested interest in defiling the very institutions and freedoms that make Canada, undermining our democracy, corralling our freedom, harming our citizens. Additionally, the RCMP and our security agency will not tolerate acts of violence against Canadians for exercising their rights to free speech, which is protected under the Charter of Rights and Freedom. We will not tolerate this, and no one in this House should tolerate this. I would like to thank the RCMP and the security agencies for its thorough work in protecting Canadians. It has been a difficult few months for Canadians. Our community has been seized by intimidation, extortion, coercion, and other serious offenses. But rest assured, Canadians from outside our community are now paying attention. There is no justification to perpetrate violence against Canadians in Canada. This is not a partisan issue. This is not subjective. It is not fodder for two-bit slogans and diversion tactics. This is the freedom. This is about the freedoms and lives because it's at stake for Canadians. The rule of law is under threat here. Canadians rightly expect party leaders to have the security clearance. This includes the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. Security clearance to know and understand the threats, foreign and domestic, even within their own party. A leader who does not stand up for all Canadians does not deserve to hold the highest office. And it is clear that the Conservative Party does not stand up for all Canadians. It was clear last week when the Conservative leader did not release an official statement on his channels following the RCMP's revelations. A lack of a response only emboldens foreign governments to perpetuate disinformation and interference. Every Canadian has the freedom to live their life in Canada without the fear of violence or coercion from a foreign entity. That does not come with an asterisk. Now more than ever, it is crucial that Canada's principles are safeguarded. For the dissent does not give leave to sanctions of murder in any civilized society. To attempt and actively pursue means of coercion, violence, and extortion is the antithesis of free, sovereign, and civilized democracy. And I'm proud that the majority of Canadians across the country have now bowed to coercion and to those in Canada who seek to facilitate it. And in the weeks and months ahead, the RCMP will continue to do their important work, but this is a collective effort. If you see something, say something. Contact the RCMP's National Security Information Network to help us as we bring these individuals to justice. I have said this before, but it bears repeating, especially when we grapple with the reality of extensive foreign interference in the lives of Canadians. Those who seek to undermine Canada's sovereignty will do and say things to delegitimize and undermine your existence as Canadian. Do not let them. You are a Sikh, you are a Canadian. You are a Hindu, you are a Canadian. You are a Christian, you are a Canadian. If you are an atheist, you are a Canadian. Whichever corner of this country you are from, you are free. Whatever the way you look, you deserve to have the safety. You are a Canadian, and Canada will always fight to remain a free and open democracy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question et commentaire. The honourable member from Edmonton Griesbach.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my honourable colleague for his speech today. It's important as we look at this issue that we center and make best efforts to understand the deep pain of many Canadians right now. Many Canadians that have, whether it's diaspora that they come from in terms of their parents being here, or they themselves have been victims of some of the hate and the violence that we're seeing across the country. In particular, it's been raised with me that the RSS in particular has been a violent and extremist group that so many across the country right now, particularly Sikh Canadians, are calling for accountability and to have this organization registered as a terrorist organization. Would the member comment on the important need of designating the RSS as a terrorist organization to help protect Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Emergency Preparedness.
Mr. Speaker, I think many Canadians have brought this issue forward and concerns about the RSS. Fortunately for here in Canada, we have independent security agencies who go through a thorough analysis to do this, and all this information has been forwarded to them. Thank you.
The Honourable l'Honorable Député de Lac-Saint.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The colleague who spoke before the last speaker, I asked a question that I didn't get an answer, so I'll try again with this Liberal colleague. The question is quite straightforward. We're talking about taking action on foreign interference. We're talking about government responsibility given this problem. And my question has to do with that, with government responsibility. On November 18, 2020, a motion called on the government to create a foreign agents registry. But that didn't happen until March 2023. That's when the government started public consultations, and they came up with C70 in 2024. So the question is simple. Why did it take 4 years when everyone was aware of the problem? The Honourable Minister of Emergency Preparedness.
Actually, I really do appreciate the question from my colleague here. When it comes to the protection of Canadians, especially when it comes to foreign interference, I can assure you that our government, from the day that we took office, were very concerned with it and taking the appropriate actions, making sure that we gave our security agency the appropriate legal authority to take actions and making sure that these concerns were addressed. And when it comes to the foreign registry and other issues, we wanted to make sure that it does get it right, because when we put forward legislation or any type of strategies, we want to make sure that it's actually going to have the intended results, and that's exactly what we did. Thank you.
See if we can get all the questions of interest that are here. The Honourable Member from Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to the Honourable Minister. I'm going to ask a difficult question. I'll try to put it concisely. The worst act of terrorism on Canadian soil ever was, of course, June 23rd, 1985, and the bombing of Air India by a very far different diaspora group in terms of Khalistani Sikh extremists, who, of course, are the opposite end of the political spectrum from Prime Minister Modi and his Hindu nationalist, very right-wing party. And yet, we have here now operatives of the current Indian government operating on Canadian soil in ways that have alarmed the RCMP sufficiently that we are investigating homicides, plural. To the honourable colleague, who certainly understands this issue far better than I do, being from that part of the world, what can we realistically do to establish good relations with India, an important country in the world, while protecting the lives of Canadians from any form of extremists or any terrorists on our soil?
The Honourable Minister for Emergency Preparedness.
Mr. Speaker, it doesn't matter who you are. If you commit any type of criminal activity, terrorism, our security agencies and RCMP will find you and charge you, and you will go to jail. And that's what we always have to strive for. When it comes to the actions that we can take, one of the things is sending a message as parliamentarians, making sure that we demonstrate to Canadians that all parliamentarians are united in this case. And this is one of the things I would, I think, asked, as I said in my remarks, for the leader of the Conservative Party to get that security clearance so he can make appropriate decisions on the information that he learned. But he still refuses to get his security clearance.
If the honourable member could do a brief question, I know the honourable member from Waterloo was on her feet before. The honourable parliamentary secretary.
Mr. Speaker, to be very short, I echo many of the words that the minister has put on the record. I really appreciate and support what the minister is saying, and I really hope that NSICOP really takes this on as an issue in itself. The question I have for the member is if he can just emphasize how important it is that the leader of the official opposition get the security clearance.
The Honourable Minister, in a very brief 20-second answer.
I would say, Mr. Speaker, it's an absolute no-brainer or common sense for all party leaders to have this security clearance to do their work that they need to do. The community has been suffering for 4 decades when it comes to intimidations, and finally, they're getting some relief, and their anxiety is still there and we have to make sure that we can keep them safe. Thank you.
Resuming debate. Reprise du débat. The honourable member from Edmonton, Mill Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I will be splitting my time with my colleague from Kildonan St. Paul. Mr. Speaker, as you know, the revelations that the RCMP presented to Canadians on last Monday were absolutely shocking, and I know talked to a number of people across the country. We're shocked at the idea that agents of the government of India were not only involved in foreign interference, but also going further than that foreign interference included murder, extortion, use of organized crime, some international crime syndicates, some here in Canada, intimidation of Canadians, coercion of Canadians. It got to the point, Mr. Speaker, where the RCMP had to essentially warn Canadians. They specifically went and warned 13 Canadians that your lives are in danger because of this foreign interference, that because there's concerns that agents of the government of India, that their lives are in risk because of the actions that they may take. Mr. Speaker, this is a clear affront to our sovereignty as a nation. This threatens us, our democracy, and threatens us as a country. Mr. Speaker, we must take steps to protect Canadians. We have to protect our sovereignty. We must protect our democracy. And we need to get answers for Canadians of why this is happening, how this continues to happen. And we need to take steps to stop foreign interference from all countries, but in this case, directly from India. Mr. Speaker, it is important that we as all parliamentarians and this government must take national security seriously. We must take the threat of foreign interference very seriously. Now, Mr. Speaker, the idea of foreign interference from India, it's not new. Ever since I was younger, whenever, we would always hear people who spoke up on human rights issues or other issues that the government of the day may not agree with, that, there'd be concerns that they may not not receive a visa to go back to India. That was the type of threat that we commonly heard previously. But what the RCMP explained now, what the RCMP has uncovered and what they have evidence for, from murder, extortion, coercion, and use of organized crime, that goes way beyond what we used to hear before. Even to the point, Mr. Speaker, that in the United States, a plot to murder a Canadian, a plot to murder an American was thwarted by the U.S. authorities. The U.S. security agencies were able to thwart that plot. And soon after that, arrests were made in the U.S. But unfortunately, we do not have that here. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister at the Hague Commission admitted that they have heard about, that their security agencies in Canada have known about foreign interference from India, that they've been committing foreign interference for years. And yet, this government has not taken appropriate steps to protect Canadians, even after the fact that a Canadian was assassinated on Canadian soil, Mr. Speaker. And yet, Canadians continue to be under threat. Even, Mr. Speaker, the fact is that after a number of years, we have been attempting to bring solutions forward on foreign interference. It was our government, our party, who pushed forward for a foreign interference registry, for a foreign registry for agents, foreign agents to be registered. For a number of years, the Liberals rejected this. The NDP supported them in rejecting this. And finally, after pressure from the Conservatives, we now have, well, starting to become a foreign interference registry of agents to be registered to stop foreign interference. Mr. Speaker, one of the methods that the RCMP has said that agents of the Indian government are using to target Canadians is extortion. That extortion, they're using international gangs, they're using gangs and paid gangs here in Canada. One of the solutions that that we put forward, because it's important that we as an opposition to put solutions forward, was my private member's bill, Bill C-381. Mr. Speaker, the fact is that right now in Canada, there is no minimum penalty for extortion. But with C-381, anybody committing extortion would have received 3 years of mandatory minimum sentence. 4 years if they had committed that extortion with a firearm, and 5 years if they had committed that extortion in relation to organized crime. And that is precisely what we are talking about here today. That is exactly what the RCMP has said that is happening in this case, that through organized crime, Canadians are being extorted. And yet, the Liberals and the NDP voted against that bill. Mr. Speaker, when we put solutions forward, unfortunately, the Liberals rejected those solutions. The fact of the matter is that Canada now is much more dangerous than it was 9 years ago in every respect, in every category, Mr. Speaker. Crime is up, murders are up. It is less safe to be in Canada, and as we are finding out, Mr. Speaker, foreign interference from India has gone to a point that, to an extreme level, where Canadians' lives are at threat. We've already seen that a Canadian has been assassinated because of it. Mr. Speaker, it is important, and it should be, that this government needs to take more and better actions to protect Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It's interesting that the focus is all on India here. And I know a lot of people thought it was, China, Russia, but India.
I shared, and I appreciate his work on the private member's bill. And I would like to ask the member, though it's pretty easy to always make it someone else's issue, is it important that when it comes to the sovereignty of our country, when it comes to defending Canadians' rights and freedoms and their ability to exist in our country, is it important that all parties take this work seriously, because I believe that we are Canadian first. I was born and raised in the Waterloo region. I did not choose to be born in Waterloo. I did not choose to be Canadian. I did choose my political party, but today we are talking about the loss of a Canadian. I would ask the member, does everyone have a responsibility, and can he please confirm why his leader chooses not to get his security clearance? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Edmonton Wood Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is absolutely imperative that we do, as a House of Commons, as parliamentarians, to bring forward solutions to help this situation. And the fact is, Mr. Speaker, she appreciates the fact that I brought forward a private member's bill on extortion to address the issue, very serious issue of extortion in Canada. But the fact of the matter is that her and her party voted against that bill and that solution. So it's one thing to say that we all need to work together and address something, but it's another thing to ignore those issues, ignore solutions, and continue on the way that they have been going on. Mr. Speaker, the issue of foreign interference from India is a very serious one, and this government needs to take it more seriously.
The honourable member, l'honorable député de Rivière-des-Mille.
The honourable member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Pardon me, Rivière-du-Nord.
Oh, c'est des Mille-Îles?
Is it Rivière-des-Mille-Îles? Rivière-du-Nord. Rivière-du-Nord, the honourable member for Rivière-du-Nord. Have you recognized me? Yes? All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague, the member for Lac-Saint-Jean, asked the same question twice. Liberal colleagues did not answer the question. That is a bit annoying because it's a very important question. This House passed a motion in 2020, a motion calling for a foreign agents registry to deal with foreign interference. So this was called for in November 2020. Here we are now, it's 2024. We're in the same situation. Consultations were only launched last year in 2023. Does my colleague feel that that's acceptable? When a motion calls for urgent, swift action, does my colleague find it acceptable that the government should take 3 or 4 years to take action? I thank the member for Rivière-du-Nord, the honourable member for Edmonton-Bellwoods.
Speaker, and I appreciate the honourable colleague's question, and he's absolutely correct that the Liberals would not answer that question, and that is, there's a reason for that, Mr. Speaker, because they don't take this issue seriously. We as a Conservative Party have been asking for and have actually presented solutions on presenting a foreign registry for foreign agents. That registry would have helped in this situation, but unfortunately, the Liberals did not bring that forward. He is correct in saying that there was a motion in the House of Commons to bring one forward, a unanimous one, and yet no solution by the Liberals. There is one now, but now they're saying that they're consulting, Mr. Speaker. They don't take this issue seriously.
The honourable member from Windsor West.
My colleague's intervention. You know, there's been a time here in this place where different leaders of political parties could not get a security clearance. We're not allowed to, and had to actually fight to be able to get access to that. That changed. So my question to my colleague is that now his leader is fighting to stay off that security clearance on this particular issue. And what other issues will they come public with that they won't get a security clearance on, because it's been clearly put out, in fact, has been standard practice to ensure our democracy is protected by all parliaments and all political parties by security clearance?
The honourable member from Edmonton Millwoods has 40 seconds to reply.
Mr. Speaker, this absolutely doesn't make any sense, because on this issue, on Monday, when our CMP discussed this issue with all Canadians, the Leader of the Opposition received a briefing from Nathaniel Durin, National Security and Intelligence Advisor to the Prime Minister, and by the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs at Global Affairs Canada, and the Director of CSIS. All of them gave the Leader of the Opposition a briefing on this issue, Mr. Speaker. The only difference is that the Leader of the Opposition is the only leader that will not be gagged by the Prime Minister in taking that oath. The job of the Leader of the Opposition is to hold them to account, and if he was to take that oath, he would not be able to do that.
Resuming debate, the honourable member from Kildonan, St. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to rise in the House amongst my colleagues and talk about this very critical issue facing Canadians that I know many Canadians have been hearing about over the past week, and certainly for this kind of news to break on a Thanksgiving Monday was quite unprecedented, in fact. And so I'm honored to put some words on the record. And certainly it's very serious allegations we're hearing from the RCMP out of what's been tied to Indian government officials, allegedly plotting to work with criminal entities in Canada connected to criminal entities in India, plotting to extort, coerce, murder, and in fact, it's been alleged that a number of individuals have in fact been murdered in Canada as a result of some of these outrageous affronts on our sovereignty in Canada. As a result of these criminal activities, we have really had our whole system of government really rocked, and a relationship that we thought was quite strong is now an issue of concern. And I think that should concern everyone in this place, because we need strong allies, strong friends and relationships internationally. So very disappointing to hear of these allegations. And it was odd and very surprising to see the RCMP sort of out of the blue have this unprecedented type press conference on a Thanksgiving Monday where they said remarkably that about 13 individuals are currently in peril, and they did not feel that they could protect them with their own resources, and so therefore they had to go public. That's quite unprecedented, Mr. Speaker, that we've got to such a point with foreign interference in Canada that the RCMP on a Thanksgiving Monday had to hold an emergency press conference to see if they could protect 13 individuals residing in Canada. It's really unbelievable, and it was quite shocking to be eating turkey dinner and be learning about some of these details. Because it was interesting, about a year ago, the Prime Minister got up in the House of Commons and also did something quite unprecedented. He got up in the House of Commons and he made these ties that there was some allegations, very serious allegations, that an individual was murdered in Canada in connection to the government of India. Very, very serious allegations that I don't believe any government, at least in recent history, has ever got up and done something like that, accuse a foreign government in that way. It was quite shocking. And so what's really interesting is that that was about 13 months ago. So we have the Prime Minister, the leader of the Liberal Party, take this quite unprecedented action in the House of Commons, call out a country that's supposed to be our friend in such a way, accusing them in essence of murder, and then nothing really happened. And then 13 months later, we have some unprecedented emergency RCMP announcement, and 6 diplomats from India were kicked out of Canada in quite a dramatic fashion because 13 individuals were in peril, and many more have been intimidated and coerced. So I mention that to say that the Prime Minister gets up and does this unprecedented action, and it seemed to not deliver any real results to stop foreign interference. It takes unprecedented action, it does nothing to fix the problem. In fact, it got worse. I think that really speaks to his lack of ability to ensure foreign interference in this country is brought to a stop. Because certainly, anyone in this country that is connected to these illegal and criminal and murderous actions needs to be held fully accountable. Full stop. We cannot as a country allow anybody, any foreign country, to come in and murder our citizens, coerce our citizens, extort our citizens, threaten to take visas away. We've heard a lot of this going on with China as well. Election interference, we see Russian disinformation, we see intimidation of Iranian Canadians from the IRGC. It took the Liberal government about, 4 or 6 years, I believe, of us calling for the Liberal government to list the IRGC as a terrorist organization. It took 6 years to ensure there was that standard in Canada to say we will no longer engage. This kind of foreign interference from Iran, for example, no longer allowed. It took many, many years for the Liberals to act on that. And we've heard more and more and more about foreign interference in the last number of years. And in fact, what we've seen from the Prime Minister, he's repeatedly denied that there's been any issue. We saw this almost every day at the beginning when there was a CSIS leak to the Globe and Mail regarding Chinese election interference in Canadian elections. Nothing to see here was really the message of the day from the Liberal government. And in fact, they were more concerned about the leaks. And it was very much the case that Conservatives had to drag this government kicking and screaming to an authentic, professional, robust public inquiry into foreign interference, which we're finally seeing now run by Justice Hoke. But it took a very, very long time to get there, and a lot of effort from us to hold the government accountable to have that type of inquiry. You'll remember there was unfortunately the sort of in-betweens when the Prime Minister sort of finally relented and decided to sort of do something about foreign interference. They had the David Johnston report, although it was found that he was quite close to Mr. Trudeau and was possibly not applying the most critical eye on what he may or may not have done on foreign interference. So that was in essence scrapped. Mr. Johnston quit midway through. And then finally we got an authentic, professional, robust inquiry into foreign interference, but it took so long, so many leaks from CSIS to sound the alarm. In fact, if it hadn't been leaks from CSIS to the Globe and Mail, we would probably not even be here talking about foreign interference. They're the ones that blew the whistle because no one was listening to them. In fact, we have a lot of accounts of national security reports just not making it to the Prime Minister's desk, Madam Speaker. Just that he wasn't reading them, that this wasn't something that he was interested in. And in fact, I'll draw your attention, Madam Speaker, to a number of the comments in the official report from the NSICOP committee that are quite concerning about how serious our Prime Minister takes foreign interference and perhaps why we got here. For example, the NSICOP report said, given the risks posed by foreign interference to Canada's national security, the committee expected the government to act following the committee's 2019 report, and it was slow to do so. Further, the government has yet to implement an effective response to foreign interference in democratic processes and institutions. This is despite a significant body of intelligence reporting, the completion of foundational policy work, public consultations, and having been called to do so by the committee. And I think Canadians should be concerned. I think they are waking up to this. How did we get to a place that China, now India, Iran, Russia, Pakistan, all of them just bullying Canada, intimidating our citizens, and allegedly connected to murder in some cases? Very serious. How did we get here? Well, we've had the same Prime Minister for 9 years, and it's never been worse. What does that say about his leadership? And I think as Canadians, we should be calling on our government. In fact, you know what? I'll actually talk about this. The Privy Council's office, when the Prime Minister, Liberal Prime Minister, first got elected in 2015, had a very official report called Open and Accountable Government. Where's my quote on that? Open and Accountable Government, where it explicitly says that national security and international relations, or international affairs, is explicitly the, quote, special responsibility of the Prime Minister. So what I've seen from this Prime Minister is excuses and not wanting to talk about it and dragging his feet, whether it's China, India, Russia, Iran, Pakistan, others. And yet it is solely his, quote, special responsibility, according to his own open government report from 2015, the governing document that was going to really be the one document this government would turn to show Canadians what their responsibilities as ministers and prime ministers was. National security, his special responsibility, and his special responsibility alone. And yet here we are. So I'd say that he has failed in fulfilling his special responsibility, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that foreign interference is stopped, that we protect our citizens. It has literally gotten to a point that there's allegations that foreign countries are murdering citizens in this, our people in this country. Mr. Najjar was a citizen. This is incredibly serious, what is happening. So I appreciate that we have the opportunity to talk about this debate. And just in my last minute, Mr. Speaker, I did want to say that what would be real leadership in this regard, we know that there is this list of names that the Prime Minister really seems to have weaponized at this foreign interference inquiry, which is very disappointing. He's turned it into a circus. And I would say that other countries hold members of Parliament and others accountable by releasing the names of those individuals who have been in connection and working with foreign governments to undermine. We've seen this in the United Kingdom with Kristen Lee, named and shamed by the UK government. Why is it that we can't know the names of the individuals, if there are, that have been candidates, former parliamentarians, current ones? Why can't we know those names? What is the Liberal government trying to hide, that they won't release them? Things like that, I think, would shed a real light and send a message to anyone looking to undermine Canada, that we're going to find out what you're up to, who you are, and we're going to hold you accountable for it. That's what this government should be doing, and that's what they failed to do for 9 years, Mr. Speaker. And we're going to hold them accountable for that. Thank you.
Questions et commentaires, l'honorable député de Lac-Saint-Jean.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, we're here this evening to talk about foreign interference, but there was information provided the Prime Minister last week saying that there are former members of Parliament, including Conservatives, who might be involved in foreign interference. Now, there is the leader of the official opposition who does not want his security clearance, and I'd like to know why. He is leader of the opposition. Were he to be Prime Minister, would he not want security clearance because it's sensitive information? Why doesn't he get his security clearance? That's a rather quick question, but there it is. The Honourable Member.
On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, we've been very clear on this. We feel, as do others, that this security clearance would in essence be a gag order. And it's very transparent, in fact, why the Prime Minister dropped this so-called bombshell and made a circus out of what was otherwise a very professional undertaking, the foreign interference inquiry. It's because his own caucus is looking to revolt. There's basically an open rebellion within that caucus coming to a head this Wednesday. And, of course, as I outlined in my remarks, there's been a very much a failed record from this Prime Minister on preventing foreign interference. And I'll just conclude with this, Mr. Speaker. From the Chief of Staff, the longest serving Chief of Staff in Canadian history, the right-hand woman to the Prime Minister, she said, quote, she said when receiving a briefing, it would, quote, prevent recipients from using, quote, the information in any manner. And even where that is not the case, briefing political parties on sensitive intelligence regarding an MP could put the leader or representative of a political party in a tough position because any decision affecting the MP might have to be made without giving them due process. So she's saying it would gag them, we're saying it would gag us. We're not going to do that.
Just pour informer à tous les députés and
I'd like to inform all members.
in interest, I saw that there are a number of people who want to get up. I'm trying to limit it to about 45 seconds question, 45 seconds answer. The Honourable Member from Cowichan Malahat Langford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do want to challenge my honourable colleague on that last point because we have former high-level CSIS executives who say that the position that the Leader of the Opposition is taking right now, there is no reasonable justification. We have Wesley Wark, who has advised both Liberal and Conservative governments, saying that it is nonsensical. We're not talking about a gag order here, Mr. Speaker. We're talking about the ability of a leader to take action within his or her caucus. This is what it's all about. And if we do have members of Parliament who are compromised, leaders have an incredible amount of power in their caucus. They can prevent MPs from sitting in certain committees. They can prevent them from running again as members under a party banner. So again, through you, Mr. Speaker, why does the leader of the Conservative Party think he knows better than former CSIS executives?
The Honourable Member from Kildonan, St. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I've shared this with the NDP member, but I do find it interesting that the former leader of the NDP would agree with the leader of the Conservative Party on this, that in essence it would be a gag order. And again, it's very political why the Liberals are doing this right now. What was interesting in that foreign interference inquiry is the Liberal leader, which we already knew, but he later admitted on the record that, of course, there were members of the Liberals that are on that list. And what has he done about it? Really nothing. In fact, he denied there was any issue at all. So really, I feel if the NDP wants something done on foreign interference, they should probably stop propping up a government that's done nothing about it for 9 years.
The Honourable Member from Surrey Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Member of Parliament said that nothing was done from September 18th when the Prime Minister announced these serious allegations. I think the member is failing to remember that 22 people have been charged for extortion, 8 for the murder of Mr. Nidger and others, and now we have an RCMP commissioner and the deputy commissioner stating that they have tried numerous attempts and in fact actually showed the evidence. So I don't know what more this Conservative opposition is expecting, but I would like to know why, when every other leader of this House, the Green Party leader, the NDP leader, and I believe the Bloc leader, has been able to see those oaths, the evidence, how come the Conservative Party leader will not take it?
Oh, for crying out loud. How much more do they expect? Here, bring it back, bring it back, bring it back, bring her back. Bring her back.
For 9 years, turn into a country that's being bullied by multiple
This is
foreign
what she
adversaries.
expects,
Now
yes.
friends, in fact. That's the status quo under this Liberal government, which that member is a part of. A government that has allowed this country to become so weak that other countries have no problems waltzing in here and murdering citizens. That's the situation. Since the Prime Minister got up in this House 13 months ago, it's gotten to such a point that the RCMP had to announce on Thanksgiving weekend that 13 more individuals are in peril. I'd say that's a failed record, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Resuming debate. The Honourable Member for Lac Saint-Jean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. We got to move on. But yeah, what do you... He says, what more do you expect? You have members of parliament possibly corrupt, compromised, influenced by foreign governments. We don't have the names. We don't know who they are. Yeah, we've had people killed as a result of foreign influence and foreign corruption, and he wants to know what more Canadians expect. Canadians expect a lot. We expect our government to address issues of foreign influence, foreign interference, to maintain the integrity of our political system, democracy, to make sure that your vote counts. What more do we expect? Sure, we've seen some arrests, but we obviously still have serious problems. RCMP, CSIS, coming forward, bringing these concerns to the surface for us, because Justin Trudeau is just not acknowledging it, not taking it seriously enough. So we expect a lot more. Demand better. It's time.
He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight. For freedom. Get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are 2 iconic artistic designs to choose from. But there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech. Free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv. The information.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Trump, McDonald's, Trump. The battle for the working class in the U.S. presidential election hitting a fever pitch. I'm sure many of you have already seen the video of Trump and his his experience at the fry station, that's where you start. You see, you start at the bottom and work your way up. Even if you're a former president, possibly a future president of the United States, here's Trump at the drive-through. he got promoted from the fry station to the drive-through on the same day. What an overachiever.
A lot of fun here, everybody.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Look at all the fake news over there. Hello, everybody.
You can fake this,
And
right?
you know this is compliments of Trump, okay?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. Mr. President,
Yes.
please don't let the United States become Brazil, my native Brazil.
We'll keep it
Please,
good.
Please, please.
We're going to make it better than ever, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, Mr.
Compliments
President.
of Trump.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you over there. Have a good time.
Thank
Nice
you.
to
You
see you.
too.
Bye,
Thank
darling.
you.
Have a good time. Thank you, honey.
Allegations coming from the Kamala camp that the whole thing was staged. Duh. Yeah. It's a photo op. It's a political stunt. Here's Trump from the outside looking in.
Mr. President, you actually have worked at McDonald's now versus...
Now I have worked at McDonald's. I've now worked for 15 minutes more than Kamala.
Are you going to put this on your
I
resume?
never worked here.
Why would she lie about
15 minutes
something
more than
like that?
Kamala, so
Will it be put on your...
Make it fact.
Okay. So he's now worked there 15 minutes longer. And I guess this was a statement from McDonald's, apparently. Let's take a look at this about Kamala Harris's claim that she worked at McDonald's. It says McDonald's USA. Earlier today, former President Trump visited a McDonald's restaurant in Pennsylvania following a request made to our local franchisee. As we've seen, our brand has been a fixture of conversation this election cycle. Yeah, McJobs. While we've not sought this, it's a testament to how much McDonald's resonates with so many Americans. McDonald's does not endorse candidates for elected office, and that remains true in this race for the next president. We are not red or blue, we are golden. Though we are not a political brand, we've been proud to hear former President Trump's love for McDonald's and Vice President Harris's fond memories working under the arches. While we and our franchisees don't have records for all positions dating back to the early 80s, what makes 1 in 8 so powerful is the shared experience so many Americans have had. When owner-operator Derek Giacomantonio was approached by local law enforcement regarding former President Trump's desire to visit a Pennsylvania restaurant, he was proud to highlight how he and his team serve their local community and make delicious food like our world-famous French fries. Upon hearing of the former president's request, we approached it through the lens of one of our core values. We open our doors to everyone. It's with that same approach that franchisees have invited Vice President Harris and Governor Walz to their restaurants. In order to share how McDonald's provides meaningful pathways to economic opportunity and feeds and fosters local communities. As this election season nears its completion, the resources we've shared in recent months will be especially important. For franchisees and restaurant teams and suppliers, please continue to reference the election toolkits previously shared and available in the links above. For company employees, be on the lookout for a reminder of the resources available to continue to support you. The strength of our brand always comes down to our people. McDonald's resonance and relevance is stronger than ever. This has been hard earned by your efforts and our collective belief in the power of us, all 3 legs of the stool. 3 legs of the stool? Thank you for everything you do, blah, 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 blah. The Trump camp saying this is proof confirmation from McDonald's that they don't have a record of Kamala Harris working for McDonald's. There was a sign as well, or a note posted on the door of the restaurant, which the Democrats are pointing to, saying, see, just a staged event, not organic. It says here, can you see that on the screen? Yeah, there it is. It says, we plan to be closed on Sunday, October 20th until 4 p.m. to accommodate a visit at the request of former President Trump and his campaign. Well, we're not a political organization, and then they regurgitate what was in the corporate statement. This is posted on the door of the local restaurant. It's politics, man. Here it is. Here's a little clearer picture of the same note on the door. Oops, there you go. Yeah, it's a political stunt. It's a photo op. He made his point. But, oh, I have to show him on the fry station because this is the lowliest of the McDonald's jobs. This is where you start. Got to work the fry station before you can move on to the pickup window or the... or the grill. Here we go. I've got him. This is Donald Trump making up those world-famous golden French fries.
Tight. We got the salt on it.
Where is it? There we go.
Never touches the human hand.
Very good. Very
Nice
good.
and full.
Thank you.
Good. Tight.
One more
We
time.
got the salt on it. Never touches the human hand.
Very good. Very
Nice
good.
and full.
Thank you.
Good.
You know, the irony in all of this, though, is that RFK Jr. came out, I think, within the last week or week and a half or whatever. He wants to impose restrictions, regulations on people who have food stamps, regulating what they're allowed to purchase, what kind of food. So they're not allowed to buy food that I guess he would deem to be unhealthy. I don't know how free that is. It seems to run
Maverick News. The world is watching.
I have a surprise for you, which is that we're going to be awarding $1 million to randomly to people who have signed the petition every day from now until the election. So, you know, one of the challenges we're having is like, well, how do we get people to know about this petition? Because the legacy media won't report on it. You know, not everyone's on X. So I figure, how do we get people to know about it? Well, this news, I think, is going to really fly. So every day between now and the election, we'll be awarding $1 million, starting tonight. All right. So, tonight's person is John Dreyer. Yeah. All right. Thank you. So, by the way, John had no idea. So, anyway, you're welcome. Yeah. So the only thing we ask for the $1 million is that you be a spokesperson for the petition, and that's it, really. That's it. Yeah, that's it. So wait, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, go ahead. Thanks, Elon. This is great. I'm really ecstatic. I want to congratulate you on your rocket catch last week. Big curveball. But yeah, I've been following you for 10 years. Got your biography 10 years ago, and been watching ever since, and big fan. So
Thank you. All right. Well, cool. So, yeah, so I think this is kind of fun. It seems like a good use of money, basically. We really need to go all out to protect the Constitution. The Constitution is there for a reason. There was great wisdom in that document, and if anything, it is what will save us from tyranny, and yeah. So.
He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight. For freedom. Get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are 2 iconic artistic designs to choose from. But there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech. Free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv.
Okay, I hope you can hear me now. I hope so. The mic wasn't muted for some reason, and this happened during our broadcast 2 nights ago. Or 3 nights ago? Anyway, the microphone lost communication with the computer system, but it's not actually muted. So I don't know. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. Check mark, that means yes. We have audio back. So here we are. I was just saying, I don't know how I feel about this situation with Musk, because we began the broadcast with a story about Moldova, the election there, the referendum, which could potentially lead to more integration into the European Economic Union. But there are concerns about foreign meddling and allegations of Russia injecting millions and millions of dollars into the electoral process there to corrupt it, influence it, Moldova, just to the west of Ukraine, right on the border there, smaller country, but of extreme interest to Russia, and they've been involved politically there. The West also interested in what's going on and trying to exert influence, obviously. But if we're concerned about that kind of election influence, what about this? Is this ethical? Is it even legal? These are questions that are being raised tonight as a result of Elon Musk's, I don't know if it's a contest, political stunt, political influence campaign, whatever it is. I think it's actually, in terms of U.S. politics, unprecedented. I don't remember anything like this ever happening before. You guys? I don't know. Here's Kamala Harris being asked about it. This is her response. Democrats not happy about it, obviously. But again, like, what does it mean?
So Elon Musk is giving away $1 million a day to voters who sign a petition. Do you have concerns about that in the context of law, this sort of legal framework around elections? And secondly, a Reuters investigation has shown something like 300 cases of political violence already in the run-up to the election. Can you just address what can be done and what the federal government can do to push back against that?
Well, on the first point, I think people are looking into that. On the second point,
when you say people, do you mean the U.S. government?
I mean, I hear that folks are looking into it just based on the stuff you all are reporting.
So, Elon.
And that's it? Okay. Where does it go? I don't know. On the talk show circuit, you have people like Whoopi Goldberg losing their minds over this. Here's Whoopi.
And this, people keep trying to buy the election.
Yeah.
Billionaire Elon Musk has gone all in for you-know-who, and now he's giving out $1 million a day to people who sign his super PAC's petition. What? Now, I thought that was against the law, but apparently they've found some new loop stuff that allowed this to go. I thought you couldn't do this. What's happening?
Well, I think that's what you do when you have no plan for the public, when you have no economic plan that's going to benefit the middle class, when you have no plan to protect reproductive rights, when you have no plan to address climate change and produce American energy, you go to these type of tactics. It's all about distraction.
There's a concept of a plan. Yeah. Aren't these tactics against the law, though? Aren't you?
Well, I'll let the lawyers decide, but it sure, look, I think
Giving water away to voters and land is against the law.
Isn't this the same thing?
No, because they're signing a petition, so you're technically not buying the vote. Frankly, there's nothing that can stop people from signing the petition, getting the $1 million, and then voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
Do that. Do that.
But make sure you're not putting yourself in a trick bag where they say, oh, by the way, you didn't read this little tiny print? Don't sign jack until you know what you're signing and how it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think? I'll just look in the chat here for a moment. 1 million in free food, says Helena. I don't know. What else are we saying here? Shaunavision says, if you join a political party, you can get merch for free. In this case, you get a chance to win $1 million. There would need to be a law about the value of your return. And Choosy, again, is saying, politics is stupid virtue signaling. We don't have a single example of successful political solution in history. They are also lying to us about war ever solving anything. Yeah. Especially when you keep coming around full circle and history keeps repeating itself and we keep fighting these same wars over and over again. It's tragic. What's going on over on Rumble? Let's check in over there and see what you folks are saying in the chat over there about this. Anything? BL Sheepwalker says ethics went out the window years ago. Jubilee laughing at Kamal's laugh. And BL Sheepwalker says, she makes me want to... Tinker 22 Bell says, it doesn't like the way Whoopi dresses. And it goes on to say, why not the Dems are playing dirty? Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'd like to think people can just, $1 million. This lady here took home $1 million. What's her name? This is Christine. Not sure what her last name is. But this is what she's saying. After receiving $1 million, if somebody gave me $1 million, do you think it would influence what I say? Would it influence you? Would you say nice things if somebody gave you $1 million?
My name is Christine Fischel. I signed the petition. I took the time to vote early, and I think everyone should too. The petition is fabulous because free speech, for the right to bear arms, these are things that we all have to remember as Americans, how important they are, and not to take them for granted. So I think it's a way to actually bring people back to that, and signing the petition really cements it. Sitting in my seat when he came on stage, it was so exciting. He did the jump like he did at the Butler rally. It was just really fun to see. And then hearing my name called was the surprise of a lifetime. It was so exciting. Like, I don't win things. And to win $1 million is crazy. So I was super excited, and I still am.
I guess so. Anyway, so there you go. It's a commercial. Interesting. What a weird election. It's just a weird election. This lady here, all in for Trump. She's at a, what was this? This was a Steelers game. And ran onto the field, Trump sign in hand, but not the most effective campaign stunt because the sign had lettering on it that was just difficult to read. Take a look at this. Tracked and then hunted down by security on the field. Here she goes. I think the Steelers should sign her up. She's pretty fast. She's probably good for a few touchdowns. Oh, man. Yeah, that's an election stunt, too. So, that's kind of where we're at. On, what is the day today? The 21st of October, 2024. Not too far away from Halloween. Speaking of Halloween, what would you guys like to have as our special Halloween feature presentation on the next edition of Maverick Midnight Matinee? Message me, email me at maverickmultimedia@mail.com, or send me a note somehow. I'll put that up in a banner at some point over the next couple of nights, so you guys can help select the movie for this coming week. On Friday night, we'll make it a Halloween special. Okay? I've got a couple in mind, but you guys tell me what you would like to see. And we'll see if we can make that happen this Friday night. Speaking of Halloween, I don't know. I think the people who made this video, which I found online, I get the feeling they must be Democrats. I'm not sure. I've only just skimmed this video briefly. Let me just bring this up here. Okay, this is what they say is the scariest haunted house ever. This is this is how I think Democrats are viewing Republicans as we approach Halloween on this in this October of 2024, an election year. Yeah, I don't know. It looked kind of funny to me. I'm not sure what to expect. I haven't really seen the whole thing. But let's take a look at this. They think this is scary.
Making sure it carries the turn.
I'm brewing up Project 2025. What's in it? A pinch of homophobia, a handful of religious propaganda, and the look of a liberal girl. Give me that hand! Donald Trump!
Oh, hey, radical liberals, I'm just cooking your dinner.
Hannibal Lecter.
Unless, of course, you're a billionaire, then you can keep it.
No, I'm not a billionaire. What is it? A concept of a plan? New economy, healthcare, golf? Oh no, it's Donald Trump's far-right Supreme Court nominee!
Ah, going back.
Okay. I guess it's funny. I like the Hannibal Lecter part. I'm not sure about the rest. Anyway, I appreciate you guys hanging out here tonight. It's been a good broadcast. Thank you to Dragon for filling us in on the details with regard to the vehicle fires, organized crime, the extortion investigations ongoing up there, organized crime. Times they've changed in Canada. In many respects, I do not recognize this country anymore. I can't believe we are, bringing you live coverage from an emergency debate tonight on foreign interference into Canada's politics. And then you see what's going on in other countries, including the United States, where in many respects, the elections we're having here now seem to resemble the kinds of elections that I only remember ever happening in banana republics. Gotta get things back to where they were, man. We need to restore integrity and fix the problems. We'll continue to work toward that tomorrow night when we return at 7 p.m. Eastern. Love you guys. See you then. On the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.